In this timeline, Lyra Valkyria barely manages to connect the powerbomb onto Nia Jax, rather than being beaten by one of the most gruesome annihilators Nia has ever delivered. And with this, with the power of Hercules, the Bird Lady manages to pick the irresistible force up and plant her with a Nightwing. Lyra is now queen. She can now challenge for the Women's World title, but will Liv Morgan still be champion by SummerSlam? Well, on the following Raw, Lyra is asked a very similar question by an interviewer, although before she can delve into her answer, she gets interrupted by a woman who she beat on her way to become queen. You got lucky in our last encounter, Lyra. So next week, I'm coming for revenge. Iyo Sky has laid down the challenge, and the match is officially announced for the following week. But before then, after Raw is finished, we see digital exclusive of a conversation between the Queen of the Ring winner and Becky Lynch as she's leaving the building after what could have been her final match, as Big Time Bex says, "You need to lock down this division whilst I'm gone, okay? And who knows, if I come back, maybe we can run it back for another world title." It's a heartfelt message from one Irish lass kicker to another, and this drives Lyra to put on arguably one of the best TV matches of the year against Iyo Sky. Both women are giving it their all, although in the dying stages of the match, Nia Jax decides to ruin the Clash of Stars by dragging Lyra Valkyria out of the ring and beating her down. And this really aggravates Iyo Sky, who decides to dive onto the irresistible force. But even with that, Iyo can't run off Nia as she gets hurled into the steel steps before sending both Iyo and Lyra into the ring and connecting two humongous annihilators. The message has been sent loud and clear, and because of this, Lyra decides to take a trip over to SmackDown as she interrupts a match involving Nia Jax, with the two beginning to brawl all around ringside. Although Lyra gets some assistance, as Iyo Sky and Kairi Sane also start attacking Nia Jax, which forces her to run off. But after this, we see a fierce stare down between the Bird Lady and Damage Control. Although on this night, strikes are not thrown. Words are not traded, as the enemy of my enemy is Iyo's friend, even if it is temporary. And with that, it's announced that Lyra Valkyria will team with Damage Control to take on Nia Jax and two partners of her choice. And on Raw, we find out who they are, as Candice LeRae and Indi Hartwell attack Damage Control, which leaves Lyra to battle against Nia all by herself. And even though she fights as best as she can, Candice LeRae comes out of nowhere and assists Nia in the beatdown. The heels stand tall, but can they also stand tall on SmackDown? As a 6-woman tag team match is officially sanctioned on the Blue brand, which turns into a chaotic brawl. As with Iyo Sky going after Nia Jax and Kairi Sane brawling with Candice LeRae, that leaves the Queen of the Ring winner and Indi Hartwell to do battle. And even though Indi tries her best, she can't withstand the pure might of the Bird Lady, as Lyra plants Indi with a Nightwing to pick up the win for her team. Nia is furious, although she decides to retreat rather than attempt to fight any further. Yet whilst Jax walks to the back, we see another tense stare down between Iyo Sky and Lyra Valkyria. Only this time, Iyo decides to attack the former NXT Women's Champion. The alliance is done, as at the end of the day, Iyo wants revenge for what happened in the Queen of the Ring tournament. And this translates to utter chaos on the following Raw, as all three women get into it with one another throughout the night. And because of this, Adam Pearce officially announces that at Clash of the Castle, in conjunction with Nick Aldis, it'll be Lyra Valkyria vs Iyo Sky vs Nia Jax, with the added stipulation that if Nia or Iyo win, they will get a shot at their brand's Women's World title at Money in the Bank. And the match is vicious. No woman pulls their punches, although Lyra and Iyo both know the threat Nia poses, so they decide to make another temporary truce as they start to double team the irresistible force. And this concludes when Iyo Sky hits a picture perfect moonsault onto Nia Jax. Although as soon as this occurs, Lyra attempts a roll up, but she kicks out at 2, and with Lyra taking the first shot this time, the truce devolves into war, as both women start trading strikes like there's no tomorrow. But Lyra is proving to be too much for Iyo to handle in this department, so the Genius of the Sky does what she knows best, and that's to fly, as she hits big time dives left, right and centre, which turns the tide of the match in her favour. And with her signature double knees smashing Lyra's skull in the corner, Iyo looks to put the match away with another moonsault, but Lyra gets out of harm's way. Then she attempts a Nightwing, although Iyo manages to counter that. But with both women so fixated on one another, they don't realise that Nia Jax is back up as she takes out both of her opponents as fate ends up repeating itself. As Nia manages to connect an Annihilator onto Iyo, although as she looks one onto Lyra, the Bird Lady once again counters and looks for a powerbomb, but Jax has this scouted as she plants Lyra with one of the most lethal Annihilators ever seen. And with that, Nia Jax gets a win back from Queen of the Ring, and on top of this, she gets a shot at Bayley for the WWE Women's title. But where does this leave Iyo Sky and Lyra Valkyria? Well, on the following Raw, it's still very clear that Iyo Sky and Lyra Valkyria both still have heavy grudges with one another. So it's made official that this will culminate with both women taking each other on in a 2 out of 3 falls match. But before then, Iyo Sky manages to qualify for the Women's Money in the Bank ladder match, which gets the attention of the Queen of the Ring, who confronts the Genius of the Sky following her big time win. Although now the stage is set in the main event of Raw for the third match between Lyra Valkyria and Iyo Sky, and it begins incredibly fast paced as Iyo manages to send the Bird Lady out of the ring before connecting not one but 2 humongous dives. Although as she looks for the third, Lyra has it scouted as she manages to grab Iyo before planting her on the hardest part of the ring back first. Then it's Lyra's turn to fly as she completely obliterates Iyo with a big dive before sending her into the ring, calling her up. Then she looks for a Nightwing, but Iyo manages to get out of it. Then she rolls Lyra up, which unbelievably is the first fall of the match. Lyra is stunned, but she immediately goes after Iyo once she gets back to her feet. The Queen of the Ring winner is relentlessly on the assault, but Iyo eventually finds an opening as she rolls Lyra up yet again, although this time she kicks out at 2. And that gives Iyo an opportunity as she manages to take Lyra down, and it's now her who's on the constant onslaught. As this includes the double knees, but Iyo just can't quite manage to connect the moonsault to put Lyra away. Although with the Bird Lady on the outside, she does manage to hit a beautiful diving moonsault on the one standing queen. But by the time she gets Lyra into the ring, this time it's Lyra who manages to catch Iyo off guard as she manages to roll up the former Women's World Champion for the 3. The score is tied, we're down to the final fall, and it kicks off in style with both women trading strikes like there's no tomorrow. Although both women eventually stagger as Lyra attempts to go for the Nightwing yet again, although it's countered once more by Iyo Sky, who manages to take Lyra down before ascending to the top rope. But as Iyo looks for the moonsault, Lyra unbelievably catches her in midair and plants her down with a Nightwing. Lyra Valkyria has won, although her celebrations don't last long as Liv Morgan disgustingly nails a chair shot at Lyra's skull. It was banned for a reason, and it seems Lyra may be concussed from the assault. Although the next time we see the Queen of the Ring is after Liv Morgan successfully defends a Women's World title at Money in the Bank against Selena Vega. But before any hands are thrown, they get interrupted by someone who has a lot of brutality.
This is my brutality!
Rhea Ripley is back, and she's here for revenge against Liv Morgan. But where does this leave the Women's World title match for SummerSlam? Well, all these questions get answered the following night on Raw, as due to Rhea never being beaten for the title, it's announced that at SummerSlam, it'll be Mami versus Lyra Valkyria versus Liv Morgan for the Women's World title. But who will win at the biggest party of the summer? While the match is on, and due to both Rhea and Lyra's disdain for Liv, they decide to double team the Women's World Champion. Although this doesn't last long, as Lyra attempts to steal the win, but Rhea kicks out, and this really pisses off Mami, as she immediately takes down the Queen of the Ring, although Lyra needs Rhea to get back into a fight. Yet once she gets up, she gets dragged to the outside by Liv, who then hurls her into the steel steps. But Rhea, of course, isn't far behind, as she dives onto the champ before sending her to the ring and beating her to Kingdom Come. Although as Rhea picks Liv up, Lyra reinserts herself into the fight by swinging wildly at Mami, which Liv also does. But as soon as Lyra Valkyria realizes this, she turns her attention to Liv as she starts beating down the reigning champion as well. Yet as she does this, Rhea attempts to catch her with a riptide out of nowhere, although this doesn't work, as Lyra then looks for a Nightwing, but Mami counters that. Although this allows Liv enough time to get back into the fight as she attempts an Oblivion, yet it gets countered by Rhea. And once again, the two babyfaces put their differences aside to take care of the champion. But as Lyra looks to hit Liv, she moves, and that leaves Rhea Ripley down on the outside, with Liv and Lyra going back and forth. And this brings out Dominic Mysterio, who grabs a chair. Although as both Rhea and Dom get in the ring, the Weasel launches the chair at Liv, but she moves and it clocks Rhea. Dominic is shocked, although he gets taken out the ring by Lyra Valkyria, but as she turns around, Liv looks for an oblivion yet again, although yet again it gets countered, and finally, Lyra manages to connect the Nightwing, and with that, Lyra Valkyria has won. She is now the new Women's World Champion, and with this, Rhea and Liv's feud can continue without the involvement of the Women's World title. But who will dethrone Lyra Valkyria? Well, that's for you to let me know in the comment section, as if you like this story, I think this might interest you.